What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Brown Gent. In today's video, I'm going to cover a bit around the Solana ecosystem and what I think you should be focusing on right now. So let's get into it. But before we do, just remember, nothing I say here is financial advice. I'm just a guy on YouTube and also a guy who apparently can't say Solana. Now, that being said, we do have a private group called the Web3 Secret Society. If you're interested, we've got the link in the description below if you want the private coaching, guidance, and support. Now, one of the things that I have been talking about in the last few weeks is what I strongly believe is probably the easiest token or ecosystem to onboard new users, and that indeed is Solana. And the reason I say all this is because if you just take a look at their platform, if you think about their gas fees, I know so many of us come in with a sort of biased mindset. You may be an Ethereum maxi or you like MetaMask and all that, but just put yourself in the shoes of some of your normie friends who are just venturing into crypto for the first time. Maybe they got $100 to their name and they're like, hey, how do I turn this $100 into like $500,000? Because everyone on TikTok's been doing it, right? Well, they're probably not going to want to spend that $100 on Ethereum gas fees. That's number one. And number two, they're probably looking for something trendy, someplace where they can trade memes and sort of just have a good time. And the Solana ecosystem has all of that. In fact, this is where I truly believe when the crypto normies truly get in, we're going to see this ecosystem dominate, at least for now. That's not to say it doesn't rotate, but that's why I've been so long on this and I've talked about it. And I'm going to talk about 2 airdrops where I think you can take advantage of this potential as well that I've already mentioned in the past. But there's some updates, so I want to make sure you do it. Now, if you're probably wondering why am I saying Solana a little differently today, I finally decided after all the comments I got on the videos to type into YouTube how to say Solana. And there's a really nice video, Say Hello to Solana, where they actually say how to say it appropriately. And it's basically S-U-L versus S-O-L. Now, that being said, we're here to talk about airdrops. So let's talk about Kamino Finance. And this morning, whether it's good or bad that they posted about it, Kamino Finance has announced that their first season snapshot will take place at the end of this month. And at the end of this month, it will culminate in the TGE or token generation event for the Kamino token. Now, the Kamino token is a governance token. And basically, it allows its holders to participate in sort of the governance scope, giving them control over incentive programs, control over protocol revenue allocation, and sort of the basic stuff we've come to know. What you should know is there will be 10 billion Kamino token that will be released. Day one circulating supply will be 10%. 7% will be community distribution, which is airdrops. And that should tell you that 70% of the initial day one supply is going to be with retail or sort of investors or people who've gotten it through the airdrops. Now, we've been talking about this in the private group. Well, the initial distribution will be distributed linearly. So if you own 1% of season 1 points, well, you get 1% of the total initial community distribution. And they're going to have a season 2 starting in April, where sort of if you are using their products and sort of rewarding loyalty, you'll be able to earn more tokens. Now, this is a positive and a negative because for the longest time, we've been sitting here farming this protocol. We've been talking about it on the channel. I know a few other crypto airdrop traders have been talking about it too. What this is going to do is people will be reallocating their liquidity here because now it's a for sure thing and they're going to want to farm it knowing full well they've only got 3 more weeks to go. So good and bad, I was going to cover this anyways, but you should be aware that this is going to be highly competitive. As this happens, I'm going to walk you through the strategy. So even if you don't go after Kamino, you're going to learn why I believe holding Solana is actually in your best interest. So let's go into the app. And in the app, when you open it up, there's no referral programs or anything like that from what I know. What you are able to do is it's basically a lending and sort of supply, a lending or supply kind of system, LSD. Now, what happens here is you're able to sort of supply on two different markets. You got the JLP market, which you already know. I love JLP, right? JLP is the casino token for Jupiter perpetuals, and it's made up of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, as well as some stable coins. 60% risk-ish, 40% stable, so no risk whatsoever. You're able to supply JLP token here or USDC, and you're able to borrow. So some constraints I want you to know about first before we talk about the strategy. Number one, if you supply a token in a market, you cannot borrow that token. They don't want people to sort of just kind of do an infinite loop of sorts. So there is a strategy, and it really depends on if you're long or short, right? If you're long on a token, what you want to do is you want to borrow stable coin, so either USDC or USDT. You borrow that against whatever you've deposited, and then you buy the tokens that you're long on. In this case, I was sort of long on Solana, so I bought Solana when it was $120, and I bought it with the, I think, 1,000 or so USDC that I borrowed, and I sort of put that back in here. So when the price of Solana increases, guess what happens? Not only am I farming a fantastic airdrop here, but I'm also making money because this is a way of doing a sort of form of leverage. So I'm going to make this very simple. What I think most people have done so far, in a previous video, I mentioned staking your BSOL on here as well. The APY sucks, but you do get some points for it. And what I've done so far is I've staked 48.5 Solana token. The APY is kind of shit, but who cares? And what I've done is, against this, I've borrowed USDC and USDT. So I got 1,003 USDC. This is really 1,000, but it's the interest that's accrued from the APY. And I've also borrowed 1,000 USDT, making this a sort of, where's the net position is above here somewhere. 8.41 supply, 2K debt, so 6.41 in the main market. And basically what I'm saying is I would rather hold Solana over the stable coins because I believe Solana is going to go up. And by doing so, I make money regardless of how the Kamino airdrop thing works. Same thing happens with JLP. I lent out basically 25-40 of JLP, borrowed some USDC, and bought more JLP with it to stake. And by doing that, I'm earning points. So you guys can see right here with my current setup. And obviously, I recognize people can't emulate that on average just because it's like, what is it, like $8,000 net assets that I own. I'm getting 51,000 points a day, putting me at a ranking of 18,000. But hey, this is going to keep me somewhat competitive. We'll see how many tokens I get. But once again, that's the core strategy here. Your second strategy can just be, well, just take a look at the platform. So let's say you choose not to get into it, but you know that most people are going to jump in this in the next couple days. Well, what that likely means is they're going to either be buying Solana token, basically buying JLP token, or buying Jupe token. These are probably the strongest of the bunch. Ethereum to a lesser extent, because you know a lot of Solana people sort of have a hatred to ETH for no reason. So you could actually just go and purchase Solana token, purchase JLP, or purchase Jupe. I would recommend JLP and Solana just because they're way more solid tokens. And I think you will see some price appreciation from that. Whatever you do get from that anyways, I would recommend just supplying it in here. Just so you know, people always get wary around liquidations, around protocols. In this case, your LTV, or your sort of loan to value ratio, it has to get to 80% for you to get liquidated. And it's a soft liquidation where you lose 0.2% of whatever you had deposited. So it's not brutal where you lose everything, but you lose 0.2% of your collateral. So it's just something sort of, you know, to keep in mind because it is very important. That's sort of when the liquidators get into effect. And this is on average, right? I know sometimes it gets a little worse or a little better, but I like to keep it green. Like you see here, my LTV is below 25% on both cases. Some would say I'm being, a bit of a pansy because I'm not really taking the risk, but hey, so be it. Maybe I'll turn it up a notch if I notice that my ranking is dropping. So what I do is I screenshot this every so often and compare it back because I want to know how I'm doing. If my ranking going in the opposite direction, obviously knowing full well that as you get closer to the top of that points hub, you got a few people controlling like the majority of the points. So that's sort of my plan here with Kamino Finance. If you're interested, by the way, of getting any of the sort of Solana or JLP token, I always recommend that you go to Jupiter. Remember, links to everything is in the description below. What you can do here is you literally use the limit swap feature on limit order. And the reason for that is there will be another Jupiter airdrop in the future. We know this already. And that's why I like holding JLP token. I mean, one of many reasons besides the fact that it's literally in a straight line. And I can literally show you that right here. If I just type in JLP, you can literally see, like, I've made a video on this, but it is literally like, it's just like straight up, you know, like it's fantastic. I got nothing but good things to say about it, just because of sort of the way it's set up. So when people lose money on perpetuals, you make money. So you're basically the casino. But you can go in here, you can trade your USDC that you borrow from Kamino Finance, and you can buy the tokens you want to go long on, deposit that back into the protocol, and potentially borrow some more. Last I checked, USDC is all lent out. So now you have to borrow USDT. Obviously a little suckier because the APY is much higher. So just something to keep in mind. But remember, there's so many ways you can attack this. I just want you to be aware. Obviously, this gets a little more challenging now that Kamino Finance has made this public. Before, we were all sort of doing this in silence or on YouTube. Now, crypto Twitter's aware of it, and you're going to see a ton of whales jump in and try to dilute this even further. The other thing I want you to remember is we also got Parcel. So just like Kamino Finance is ending March 31st, we're expecting Parcel to do much of the same thing. You've got another 3 weeks left if you want to earn some points for Parcel. And with the updated changes, we've talked about this before, but basically if you lock in some liquidity, you get 5 points per USDC per day. Traders get 2.5, and I know I've seen some people who are a little more degen because they say it's not as volatile of a market, but quite frankly, I just don't think it's worth the risk. Just so you know, you'll have to lock up your liquidity for 30 days. And what I've done recently, when you look at Parcel, is I've actually gone and withdrawn 700 of the 2,100 I had in here to put that into Kamino Finance and just go a little harder there. So here I'm getting 8,451 points per day. But you know what? Instead of sort of hearing me talk about that protocol, you can literally go and watch the guide that I've already made on Parcel. So I would make sure that I would recommend that because I think it's super, super valuable. And Stonks is asking, how do I join your private group? How come I don't accept crypto? Well, unfortunately, they don't allow that through the systems that I use right now. I do want to sort of take this time to welcome Jimmy Panny, who's recently become a YouTube member. So, congratulations for making the right choice and joining the Web3 Secret Society. Stonks Finance, message me on Twitter and we can see what we can do for you in terms of the YouTube membership. For everyone else who's asking questions around what's going on, just so you guys know, we will have an AMA later today. So make sure that you tune in about like half an hour or 20 minutes, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have there. With that all being said, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.